I'm Michelle Morrow, and I'm here with Randy Varnell. He's the creative director of Battleborn, the new title from Gearbox. This is your first time here at PAX Prime, right?
It is. This is the first chance I've gotten. I've had a reason to come and had a free enough schedule that I've been able to get up here. So I've been to E3 and I've been to Dragon Con and stuff like that, but this is cool.
You guys were just on the cover of Game Informer, which
yeah, it
is
was
incredible.
Really exciting.
How did you get into game development? Where did this come from? Has you been gaming a long time in your life?
You know, I've been a gamer since, gosh, my parents, I remember them bringing back home, and I'm older, so right. The original Atari, it wasn't even the Atari 2600. It was, they got the gaming console, it was before that line, right? And it was a thing from Sears, and it didn't even take cartridges, the first one. I mean, I go back to the thing where it was the unit, it had the paddles and the stick, and I think you could play a version of Pong on it, and maybe there was something with, it had the light gun. It was
what was it called, do you remember?
I can't. I mean, it was like old school, and I remember my parents brought that home, and we hooked it up to a TV beside the main TV, and it blew my mind. You know, we got out the second TV for this one. That was a big deal back then, right?
Yeah.
And then just about a year after that, we got I think it died, and their solution to replace it was the Atari 2600.
Yeah.
And that was it. I was lost forever, I think, at that point.
You're like, this technology is amazing.
And
but that's what was cool about the early 80s, is in the like late 70s, early 80s, is that it was all so new, and it was for the family.
Right. And every year it was something different, right? I mean, we went through all those phases of the Atari to and I remember we got our first computer, and I was so mad at my father because he wouldn't get a VIC-20. I wanted a VIC-20 because it had the games on it. He got me a Commodore 64.
Oh, I had the Commodore 64.
And it turns out the Commodore 64 was like the best personal gaming computer for the longest time.
Yeah.
And
what do you think is the game that influenced you the most as a child?
As a child, I mean, I'm going to go all the way back to the first adventure. All the way back, one of the first games that came out for the 2600, you know, it was super pixelated. I think you had maybe 2 colors on screen at a time. And I remember that it's that classic dragon that had the hollow belly, and you were literally a dot. And you would go get an arrow for your joust, and you would try to go and arcadey, move around the dragon, and poke the dragon with that. And there were 2 things that really immersed me in that. One is it was an adventure game, and I'm playing it, you know, look at me, I'm an adventurer, and just those classic, you know, I've got a sword, I've got a spear, I'm fighting a dragon. That was great. But the other thing that really got me, and this is one of the things I think that fed into an obsession of gaming, is that adventure had a secret. You could get a magic dot. Like on the back corner of a level, you could take your little thing and you could go and press really hard into a corner, and you would pick up an invisible magic dot, which would let you go through a screen on the side where the programmer said put an Easter egg in the game, and it was like his name and this logo and stuff and all that. And it just really opened up a mind to, it's neat. This is a world of exploration and secrets, and sometimes the secrets go deeper than what's on the surface.
Right, what's there. You play a lot with your family.
I do. I've got my son Graham, who's 15 now. My daughter Rachel, who's 17, she'll be a junior in high school this year.
Oh my gosh.
We share that creative aspect together, right? We're running a Minecraft server together.
No way.
Big role playing, and we're heavily modded and all of that. But this is the first server where she's come up with the lore of the world, she's come up with what mods were going, and I'm just playing like technical director for her, putting it all together, and it's amazing. She talks about it, and I say, well, have you considered this? Maybe the elves in your world aren't, the Tolkien elves. Maybe we come up with our own idea. Maybe they're aquatic, or maybe they breathe fire. I don't know what it is, but we create a little bit. And so it's been cool to watch her kind of share a little bit of the family passion for that.
Absolutely. Do you think that like your kids are wanting to go into game development as well?
They do. I hope we can find someone that can give them a leg up into the industry. When they get joke.
So now that you decided to go into game design, what kind of decision was that? Did you start off directly on that path, or is it something that you kind of molded and found your way to?
I actually came through it. I grew up. Again, hardcore nerd. D&D and those games and all of that. And I was always the dungeon master growing up.
I'm glad to hear you played tabletop too.
Oh, I still play a little bit now and then. It's just I don't have my time is so split between the kids and everything like that. I try to find things that don't require, because tabletop is a lure for me. I love world building, and I read a lot of fantasy. I always love the fantasy authors that build really good worlds. And when I get into tabletop, I want to spend spend 3 months designing the world and then like for 6 hours a play session. But it's always what I loved. So I was always the DM. I was the one who wanted to sink the time and the effort into learning that and presenting it and work through. So, I mean, it goes back that far.
Because you're the one really helming and telling the story. You're walking everyone through that. And there's a lot of responsibility on a Dungeon Master.
There
Quite
is.
a bit.
Even when we played MMOs, I played EverQuest, because EverQuest was the first one, it was, I guess, I got in the EverQuest Phase 3 beta, and 97, 98, 99, right around in there. It's been a while now.
Wow.
And in EverQuest, I even put together, we played on a role-playing server and actually did some huge, I created a dragon worshipping cult in EverQuest and ran this event.
Amazing, okay.
Ran this event that at the highest count, we had 35 guilds involved and over 1,000 players. We were crashing EverQuest servers with zone stuff. So, you even see some design. We were designing these quest lines and storylines, and then there was a mix of like design and direction and production all in that. You're pulling people together and you're crafting lore and story on top of this cool world that those guys had already put together and built these big communities, and then you're kind of moving them but trying to get that, okay, I'm going to give you some direction, but I'm going to give you enough freedom to run with that, and then I'm going to adapt with that. So a lot of those things that are really, I think, important to design and important with understanding your community and the players and experiencing it, even go back to there.
Yeah, because it's about telling a good story and creating good characters and making people feel connected to the characters that they're playing.
It was exciting. So we played, I had a stupid the name that I have on Twitter, Jithri, was actually my first EverQuest character. I built a Bard's Guild. And we may have done performances in EverQuest. I probably should admit that. That's really geeky, right? But we would have if you played the original EverQuest and remember going to, there's a town there called Freeport. It was the first town.
Yeah.
You know the stage that's in Freeport in the area?
Yeah.
It's there because of me. Because in Phase 3 beta, we and the Bards Guild were performing. And they dropped that in for us, and that was really awesome. And so we would have...
That's incredible.
We would have game masters and stuff that would attend, sit in the back of our... It was the dumbest thing, because we'd sit around and type poetry we'd written about other players in the game.
Is this published somewhere?
Oh, probably, but I'm not going to find it because it was neat because it was playing with that extension of that immersive experience, that things that we always love about game. We made a character. We're interacting with other people. We're interacting with the character, and we did that there, and we had a big guild in Anarchy Online. I was actually working at Macromedia at the time, in graphics design. Worked on several graphics design tools.
So you started off in graphic design.
That was my first real job. Yeah.
Very cool.
I was a QA and then feature designer. We worked on freehand and fireworks, graphic design, web design stuff during the .com era.
Which is madness.
It was amazing, and that was a cool time, and that was, got to learn how to do some design, but not specifically game design, for the job I was paid for. But started doing that community building type of stuff, which I realized later, I mean, it's a lot of what I still do now, in creative direction, because you're coming up with a world, you're coming with a topic, you're thinking, how can I involve more people and more players, and what are they doing minute to minute? What keeps them excited? What keeps you involved and interested in this storyline? So did that there. And then went and worked, I worked at Ensemble Studios for a brief period of time, just in QA there, but worked on Age of Mythology, and that was cool. That was my first, I think, real game gig of getting in to see how, at a game company, how is it put together, what do you do and all that.
How did Battleborn come about? How is this something that, where's the genesis of this?
Wow, probably Randy Pitchford and I dreaming. We just started. There was a moment that Gearbox had put many of us on Borderlands 2, and we were all working together. I was design producer on Borderlands 2, and that was kind of neat because for the first time I got to do the producing, kind of the management aspect of the job, but design producer actually got a little hands on myself and really got to work with that group of amazing senior designers at Gearbox, and just helping them make all of their designs kind of come together and gel. Paul Helquist, who's creative director there, is an amazing guy. But at the end, as we were kind of wrapping up, and they were getting me, because I talk a lot. We've established that. Sorry.
You do?
I do.
No, this is a good thing. This is a good thing. It's so good to get to know you and have people in the community get to know you a little bit better, because everyone's very excited for Battleborn, and we're glad that there's somebody that's a true nerd coming up with a lot of the creativity behind it.
Yeah. I like pretty much every type of game that exists, and the guys I work with, we're having a blast making this game. It's a game full of imagination, fun, and wild different gameplay, and you're gonna see probably everything I've talked about and then some kind of in a form in this game and mixed all together. It's cool.
Well, are you on Twitter?
I am.
What's your Twitter handle?
It's Jithri. It's that game I talked about. It's at JYTHRI at Jithri. And I'm on Twitter and trying to tweet more and trying to get in there, but I'm a nerd. Ask me anything about games. Love games.
All right, guys.
Love me
Make
some
sure
games.
that you hit him up, tweet him, and Randy, thank you so much for sitting down and talking with us.
Michelle.
Now we're going to go play Super Fight.
All right.